PC. I see everybody else, including myself. I've got all of you visually.
George's video is black, dark.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see you fine.
Wow.
Now, I saw George before I was talking to him, but now I don't see him.
Yeah, I
I
don't
see him. I got him.
Okay.
So it might be the upper right-hand corner where it says view.
Yeah.
And you might want, I'm talking to everyone else. Do you
Oh, okay.
all have on gallery?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see all of you individually except George. He's the only one that's not in the frame. I see Craig, and I see Willie, and I see Peter and Felix and John. And Karen and Stu Jones are coming on. Oh, good. But I don't see George, so.
All right. Well, I'm here.
Do you all see George?
No.
Peter, do you see George?
No.
I do.
All right.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know what it
weird.
is. Strange.
Do you have a piece of, well, you see him, Pam, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a piece of tape over his,
No.
No.
No, I'm not that tricky. All right. We everybody on and we're recording?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Troy will have to see when unless he's out sanding the ice. He could be.
Yeah.
He could be. All right. Let's do. We'll open the meeting. I've got it at 7:03, January 10th of our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and just go through the roll. I'm George Clausen. Craig is on board. John Cooney's here. Peter Marchand, Willard Platt, Charlene, and Felix. So we'll just keep track for what happens with Troy. He did indicate if he had to be out with Public Works, that, but I didn't hear anything different today. Public comment. Do we have anybody on board for public comment, Pam?
Yeah, it appears that Mr. and Mrs. Jones are here. So
Okay.
I'm giving her a prompt to unmute.
Okay.
There she goes.
Here I go. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Karen.
Good evening. We are Karen and Stu Jones of 199, 201, 208, and 210 East Lake Street. George, we need your help in understanding our situation. Suppose Stu became ill and we could no longer pay our dealer insurance and consequently lose our dealer license. Upon Stu's return to health and a new application for a dealer's license, would our zoning for 201 and 210 East Lake be auto repair compliant, as a new dealer's license requires auto repair zoning?
Karen, and this is when we, am I on? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay. When we went through the rezoning exercise, we were trying to simplify our zoning, and obviously yours was one of the properties that got moved from industrial to the Highland Lake Business Zone. But one of the primary things that we asked our consultant, not only the one we hired as a consultant to assist us, but we had a Connecticut expert in the legal land use area, and we asked them about the issue of grandfathering, which is what this issue is about your property.
Correct.
And they indicated to us that in order for you to give up that, or when you sold it, or Stu deeded it to, for instance, a relative, your son or whoever.
Yeah, like if our son owned the property, would he be able to apply for a dealer's license?
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing you want to mention though here is the law is not firm on what constitutes an abandonment of use. So clearly, if you abandon a use and you attempt to resume it, you've lost it. Yes. But short of formally abandoning it and what form the abandonment has to take and for what span of time the abandonment has to take is really the unknown. So I'm afraid that, I mean, obviously if you keep your dealer's license up and you continue the use, I mean, that's pretty simple and cut and dry, and it wouldn't matter whether it's you or whether it's your son or whether
Well, how would he have our license though?
well, a new license.
You're right, Karen. It would be
A new license.
a transfer of ownership requires a whole new process going through ZBA and so
Yep.
forth. But
Right.
the use of the property is grandfathered, and you would have to physically say, and again, Pam's correct. This is what is the form of abandonment that is, recognized. One of the things, Karen, that I think our entire commission has been very diligent in going to refresher courses every 2 years. The Connecticut Bar Association, their land use division, puts on a day-long seminar at Wesleyan. And this year it was our time, but it was done with Zoom. And one of the things, and I've got a letter actually that I'm going to send to the Board of Selectmen relative to when we go through it and review it tonight and get the approval from the commission. But it's part of that is the emphasis on grandfathering. It's a very, very important part of land use law that protects you, Stu, and everybody else that has properties that when there's rezoning that takes place, it doesn't just pull the carpet out from underneath you.
Well, who's grandfathered, George? Is it Stu's grandfathered or this property?
The use of the property.
Oh, the use of the property.
The use of the property. Yeah, it's not individual. It's the use of the property. And there's a lot of concern about that because of rezoning in the state and different things that are going on, not just in our community. But we were very careful to try to understand the implications of what our efforts would be. And I know, and I know how passionate you are because we're all passionate about our properties and what we own and so forth. But that's why we took care in that. We're not trying to eliminate industrial in town. We're not trying to reclaim properties that way. I think the intention, because you look at the properties, like even Nanny's property that's down beyond, behind John Street, that big property. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And the property on Meadow Street, that big industrial complex that's there. Iflin owns that now.
Yes.
Some of these properties, I'd say most of our properties that Stu gave us, and you gave us a good history of the uses of property through the years and why this town was such a successful industrial base. But it was to do with our water power. It was pretty much the reason for it. I know we were involved personally with the Hudson Wire property. And when we were taking that building down, we uncovered a turbine underground where water was diverted into underneath the building and was used in their generation of electricity for their property. So that's how our town, mill ponds and so forth, that's why we were so successful here. And at one point, from what I've read in history, our town was bigger than Torrington because of our industrial base. So but what we're trying to do in our efforts here is not something that flip us a switch, 5 years from now. We think this transition will take quite a few years. I mean, probably 20 to 30 or more years. But the direction we'd like to see, and we talked about this extensively, is that some of these neighborhoods should be reclaimed as neighborhoods rather than, industrial facilities. And the industrial development should be where there's state highways, where there's an infrastructure that supports it. You've got, all of those things that keeps the heavy traffic and the potential for negative impact on the soil and the ground and the groundwater and aquifers and our drinking water, to protect those things. Because once we damage that, we'll never get it back. And the quality of the lake. you brought up too, and Stu did very, very nicely. Our lake is our biggest asset in this community, as other bodies of water, but primarily Highland Lake has been the focus of development. And we don't want to see that in all disturbed. So
Of course not.
But you are grandfathered in.
Okay, I just have to bring this up. In
Yep.
today's Registered Citizen, which I'm sure you read, there was a quote by you, and it says, "But there's no auto repair listed in that district." And the commissions agreed at this point, it is not in the best interest to the health of the lake to allow them. Anything that has an impact on aquifers and bodies of water just isn't allowed, he said. And we're thinking the commission doesn't allow auto repair on the lake, but yet it allows motorboat repaired. And we're wondering, why is that? Motorboat repair is the same as auto repair, except that autos don't roar up and down the lake. They don't pollute the lake with their oil and exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
We think it's very unreasonable and arbitrary with flawed reasoning. And to be truthful,
Mm-hmm.
we believe the biggest pollutant of Highland Lake is probably lawn fertilizer.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just personally, but that's not only here, but every place that's got, since recreational use of lakes has been since, I mean, I started up at the lake with my mother and father. They bought it in 1962. And the change in the ownership and the use of the properties has been substantially changed in all those years. And I agree, but and that's a good comment that you made about the boat repairs and so forth. That's a good point. But the point though too is anything in the Highland Lake business district that isn't currently an operational business is subject to coming to our commission to go through a special permit to evaluate the potential implications and impact on the lake. So we don't have automotive repair here.
Right. And that's
right.
our concern. That's our big concern, George.
But you're grandfathered in, so you are protected.
Oh, well, we are, Stu and I are, and possibly our son, but if we were to sell this to, let's say, a Torrington resident or something, a non-relative of ours,
Sure.
Are they able to apply for an
The use
auto repair zone?
Unless it's abandoned by an action that you would take.
Well, our action, okay, let's say our
what is-
action is we sold it. Is
But
that
that's not
abandoned?
abandoning. That's not, in from what our legal consultants have indicated, that does not make it an abandonment because you've changed the owner.
Okay, we need to know that. We need to have something like that in writing for us. We do have these certificates that PM sent us.
Yes.
But I don't know, the wording of that, I don't have a comfort level knowing that in 10 years or something, if we were to sell this property, that whoever we sold it to, they'd be able to open up, an auto repair shop. And that is worth something to us.
Oh, absolutely. You don't
That's
understand
worth
that.
something to us.
No, and we don't disregard that interest. And I totally appreciate that. Maybe.
What can we have then in writing? We do need something. We do.
Well,
need
yeah,
something.
that's nothing, that's nothing that we can, from our commission, give to you, because it's going to have to be a legal interpretation. So that question, can you write a request to have determination of that so that we can then, get it to our land use consultant?
It sounds like you want an opinion on non-conforming uses.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
Yes.
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 That's what we want.
And because, each situation of a non-conforming use can differ. And like I said, the statutes are don't spell out what an abandonment looks like. So it sounds like your concern is beyond your use of it, and
It is.
perhaps
It
even
is.
beyond your son's use,
Mhm.
and more directed towards a potential third party.
Mhm.
Because there would be limitations on expanding that non-conforming use.
Well,
You know.
we wouldn't, I don't think it would want to be
You know, like even an
expanded.
expansion to the
But
building.
this is truly a
Yeah.
garage out here. It's not a house, it's a garage.
So
Sure,
this commission isn't gonna, I don't think, be able to give you, tonight. I think you may want to email me your direct concerns, and I will get an opinion from our attorney, the town's attorney, on non-conforming uses, and what rights you have with a non-conforming use.
to include if there's a transfer in ownership, because that's the key. It doesn't have to be a relative or anything else. It's a somebody as a third party that's not connected to as a family relationship. That should be clear.
Okay,
Can we also have a definition of the term abandonment? That,
No, I don't think you're gonna get one of those. Like
No?
that's because there's different forms. And it's yet to be seen. Does 20 years of not utilizing that non-conforming use is it preserved if you've never, if the building remains unoccupied and nothing has occurred there, but 20 years from now, in 20 years, you seek to reactivate, a non-conforming use. I don't know that you're going to get someone to spell out in writing, oh, sure, it's not, it wouldn't expire after 19 years, but it might expire after 21. There's just not
It's
clear
not-
definition in the law on that.
But Pam, if Karen and Stu could write, a note to you.
Yeah,
and
we'll
then if
send
that
it
could
on,
be- because you've already, my understanding is you
A
have
certificate
given
of
a
zoning compliance,
certificate of zoning compliance.
we did receive those. Yeah.
Yep.
But the further state is to clarify beyond that, because, that's
It's
the
tough.
problem with land use.
Yeah.
There's so much of this. That's why we have a refresher every couple of years, is because so much of this is dictated through the outcome of legal proceedings and court action. And then that more clearly defines, what we're talking about tonight, what we've been involved with. And, as a property owner too, it's extremely important that we understand, and that's, I think, the value of zoning, that when you buy into a new location, you have some reasonable expectation of the limitations of the development in your neighborhood. And that's why I believe, and I think that's been successful, in Connecticut specifically. But if you can do that, Karen and Stu, let's follow up and we'll get that pursued and get that out to you.
We certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you for your time too.
Stu, do you have anything to say? Or are you okay?
no, I'm all set.
Thank you all very much.
But before we close out, I want to, something that my observation is the way both of you have taken care of your properties. If everyone did that in town, that you set a good example. And, if we were to do zoning based on people who take care of their properties, but the problem is so many times properties get transferred after you've taken such good care of them, and somebody else doesn't have the same interest or commitment to the community and their neighborhood. But I would like to tell you that, what I have observed, you guys have been fantastic participants and supporters of our community and what you've done. And I really appreciate you as a community member, and that we're here with you guys.
Thank you very much.
George, let me just mention something that I have noted over the years, and that is that lakefront property always seems to fall into stronger hands because it's so valuable. It has a self-writing ability.
Mhm.
You never see a property go into, or very seldom, go into a new party and the party runs it down.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
almost always, when it changes hands, it's upgraded.
Sure. No, that's a good observation. That's true.
Mhm.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. Well,
Well,
thank all of you, and thank you for being on the board. Thank you.
well, no, I appreciate your commitment to our community and what you both have done. So thanks again for all your time and your commitment. Okay, do we have anybody else, Pam, that would like to speak under public comment?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Anybody on the commission have anything under agenda review?
Nothing.
Other business, Pam, anything that has come up since we come up with the agenda? We don't have any
No,
public.
you can expect to have an 824 referral at your next meeting, your second meeting in January, on the development rights around the Crystal Lake
Watershed.
Reservoir.
Okay. All right.
George, I know you had gotten a presentation from the folks that are sponsoring this. They're seeking grants to
Yes.
permanently protect it. They don't have a survey. They have really just a GIS overlay. So I had I want to help them put it together, and I think you're going to need slightly more information than they had initially, but I'm wondering if you think, can you do an 824 referral without a survey?
Well, let me, because I think that, first of all, my understanding is John DeCara worked on assembling the parcels that were involved in that discussion. So I'm not sure what is in that presentation, Pam. So maybe
So he may
to
have a
look at it.
compilation plan on
He
this?
might have, yeah, because my understanding was there was a number of parcels in the total review, and then so many of those parcels were excluded because they weren't exactly in the watershed and so forth. So there
Okay,
should be
well,
quite a bit of data, but if it's incomplete,
we should
will
firm it
then-
up then it wasn't complete for this
okay.
meeting, but definitely for your second meeting in January, you'll have that.
Yeah, John DeCara has done quite a bit of background work on this, but if it's incomplete, we can always continue it.
Looks like Peter is.
Now, just a question, George, can they do that from GIS points instead of survey?
It could be. And like I said, that John DeCara has done a lot of background putting these parcels together. So we'll have to just see, Peter, what exactly he's put together so that you can identify what in fact is in play.
Because those are a lot of separate parcels there. There's quite a few
Yes.
parcels to make that
Yeah,
up.
good point. Yeah, you're familiar with a lot of that. Okay, so that'll be the next meeting on the 24th. Okay, new business. This is issue 7A PZC 21-09, special permit location 3 Rocky Ridge Drive, applicant owner Wayne Kuzma and D. Kuzma, proposal clear cutting of trees with existing slope over 15%. I talked to Pam earlier, and it sounds like there hasn't been any further activity from the applicants with regards to this. And I would suggest to the commission what your feeling is, but I would suggest we deny this without prejudice so that we don't eliminate any of their opportunity to proceed with this particular application. But we're going to run out of time, and we can't just not deal with it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we deny PZC 2109 special permit without prejudice.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Will.
Yeah. One thing, George, I don't know if you've taken a ride by the property there, but was a lot of clear cutting done before
It was
they were
brought in.
stopped. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite a mess right now.
Okay. Well,
Where's Rocky Ridge Drive, Pete?
It's just past the Lake Winchester boat launch on the left-hand side. It's a private road.
Okay,
But
Yep.
the lot in question is on the corner of that with Winchester Road, West Road, I should say. It'd be on the Norfolk side, towards Norfolk. There's a big log cabin just beyond that where they clear cut quite a
Yeah.
little between the log cabin and there.
But I guess their intention was to make some kind of a meadow or something up there.
Yes, I believe so from what they said to us.
But we haven't had any, we described what we were looking for and we haven't heard anything back. So I think we're running out of time with it. So we should take this kind of action to go ahead and safeguard their application and protect us from just letting something just keep going.
Have they continued to do anything up there? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think so since they came to us.
Yeah. Okay. Any
Pam, was
other,
anything submitted to wetlands at all for
No.
that? No? Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All the 5 seated members that can vote on this. All in favor of the denying it without prejudice, raise your hand, please. And my hand's up. I don't know if anybody can see it.
Thank you.
Okay. Unanimous. Okay, the minutes from December 13th, 2021. We have a motion with regards to approval of that.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
And a second.
I'll second.
Okay. I don't know who raised their hand first, John.
Let John have it.
Okay, all right. All right, any additions, corrections, anything on that? All in favor? Raise your hands. Mine's in the air. Okay. Communications. Pam, do we have anything?
No, there's a letter from the Conservation Commission on that 824 referral that you'll see, but you'll have a copy of that for your next meeting.
Okay, I think under communication, I'd like to, with the commission's agreement, I'd like to bring up the same issue with regards to the rezoning that was brought up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting on January 3rd, and actually was discussed in the Register Citizen in today's article. And I think it would be helpful because of the public presentation with regards to comments concerning our activities. I drafted this letter, and I know I've sent it to everybody, and has everybody had an opportunity to read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that issue has been raised is it our intention through the letter to revisit the rezoning of that lakefront property that we dealt with that night, which my intention in putting this together was not to revisit it, but to explain better the issue that was in question, which we just went through a lot of discussion at the public comment section about the grandfathering, but also the discussion with regards to our the reasons why we did certain things. And that really was covered in here, the intent of the rezoning in the third bullet paragraph. So I think that's pretty clear, but it's not my intention when I put this together to say anything to any of the people that have, been involved with that rezoning public hearing, but only to discuss and put in place, our reasoning behind it, not to, create any more turmoil or anything. I think. So basically what I'm looking for is, do you have any more comments with regards to that? And if you do, let's discuss them. If not, I'd like to get an endorsement of sending this to the Board of Selectmen so that we can get it as part of the record. What I did include, what Pam's got going on the screen, is an excerpt from the large, thick book that we got in the March 6th, 2021 Zoom meeting with the Connecticut Bar Association. And that had a discussion, as they've done every year that I've been involved with this, discuss the abandonment and grandfathering. So I thought it might be helpful just to show that. And of course, whenever you read all the the backup with the legal activity. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but Charlene wouldn't need an interpreter, but I do. What that really comes up to.
Well, George, that's your point to Karen and Stu, that this is how these things evolve through case law.
Yes.
Cases that are brought before the court making decisions. And that's why you can't be definitive about any of this stuff, because it changes as cases are brought before the court.
Yeah.
So it's the development of case law. And that's kind of it's kind of not a slippery issue, but what constitutes abandonment is not a black and white settled in case law. It evolves depending on the totality of the circumstances kind of situation.
So what basically what you're saying is
but
go ahead.
But to your other point, I think we should add a line or so, some that this is not about, this is a clarification about the intent of the Planning and Zoning Commission in both the POCD and the amendment of the regs over the last several years. And it's not specific to any one example in town.
Well, frankly, the opening line, the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to clarify recent discussion about the rezoning of industrial properties to residential. So it wasn't highlighting a particular one.
Right, and it does that. That's the general purpose of the memo.
Yeah, the first line in there, first two lines.
So I mean, it does do that.
Yeah.
And the minutes of the P&Z meeting are the legal actions of the board vis-a-vis the issue that was taken up by Planning and Zoning at the last meeting in regard to the Highland Lake business district versus residential district. So I think it's covered in the minutes. And then this is nothing more. This is not this memo that we're looking at now is just an explanatory letter. It's not even really it's not really even a legal document. It's just an explanation.
And I didn't mean it, but I think just
no,
because,
I understand. Yeah,
we didn't have an opportunity to sit with the Board of Selectmen's meeting. And,
right. No, I know it's an effort. It's an effort to set the record straight on what was going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
good points. Peter.
Yes, George, I'll make a motion that you send the letter you penned to the Board of Selectmen from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the rezoning.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So further discussion, and that's everybody, alternates as well, of the motion. Any other further comments?
I think I made mine before the motion was made.
No, you're
Sorry.
right. You're right. No, you're good. Felix, you're new to the commission, but you
no questions.
no questions. Okay. All right. Okay. If we have no more questions with regards to it and comments, then let's take a motion or a vote. And it's everybody that's sitting tonight, as well as the alternates. All in favor?
Oh,
Raise your hands. Okay. Do we have anybody abstaining or voting against it? No. Okay. Thank you very much. I think that'll be helpful, just so we have something on the record to I think clarify, because sometimes the Board of Selectmen don't get all sides of the equation. Staff reports. Pam, do we have any enforcement activity that we've got a summary of any?
No, I didn't get one. He was away through Tuesday and was out Friday. I wanted to give you something on Woodland Avenue because I know you're curious on that. I know that there's been follow-up on the properties along Torrington Road with expired excavation permits. There's progress being made. But I'd like to be able to give you an update on each one, but suffice it to say there is, people are getting their plans together, confirmations being made, with surveyors, on that to, so it's not just,
Okay. All right.
property owners'
Maybe-
words that they're working towards it. We're confirming with the surveyors that they are indeed have the projects in the queue.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we, just from a planning standpoint, instead of doing this at every meeting, just have a staff report on anything that's outstanding
yeah.
once a month? So maybe the
Yep,
second meeting or so.
on enforcement, correct?
Yeah, on enforcement, just so we know what we've got for weak spots or what we've got that,
Yep.
the land use,
Mhm.
office is following up on. Thank you.
Mhm.
I just while we're under staff reports, I just want to mention the term expirations for all the commissioners. I was going through something in the agenda for the Board of Selectmen, and I noticed they had a reappointment of your term, John. And when I looked at it, I said, you had filled another term or filled a position that had a term that expired in 24. So I was a little, plus all our terms end in October. So I said, what happened there? Well, it turned out that somehow they had missed the reappointment of Charlene. So they took care of that on last Monday's meeting. But the way I've got it, it looks to me like through all these years, we usually have 2 members' terms ending in a particular year. And usually it's at least one alternate and one seated position. For instance, I'm just going to go through the list. My term is October of 22 this year. Craig Standon's is October of 25. Willie's and Charlene's both expire on the October of 26. John Cooney's and Todd or Troy's October of 24. And let's see, Peter, you and I expire this year. And let's see, 25. That was Craig and Felix around October of 25. So we've gotten those with Terry. We've got them kind of under control now, because when we have seats that are open, that's when they lose the continuity of who the term expirations. So I try to keep track of it, because I know when I was a selectman, I got in charge of the commissions and tried to unscramble it. And it's a pain in the neck to unscramble it later on. But just so everybody's aware. So the only 2 terms coming up is this year is mine and Peter's. Okay. Other business, the proposed the marijuana cannabis regulation. Pam did put up the marked up copy that she'd been giving to us, as well as a draft without all the markups and everything else. So I went through this, and the only thing that, and it's not in the particular regulation, it's in the chart that we have that shows what zones you can do certain things in. And when we had, so just to start with it in this discussion, I had brought up the possibility of keeping it in town center, the town gateway, and the production and innovation. So those 3 zones that you'd have to get a special permit to do it in. What's the commission's thoughts with regards to that?
I think town center is important.
Okay, that's is Felix. Yeah. Okay. Well, and I think we talked previously. I know when the only town I've gone into to take a look at some of these establishments, Great Barrington has it right in the, right on their main street. And unless you were really looking hard for it, you wouldn't realize it was there. They really have used, just a sign that's really kind of innocent looking. They don't use depictions of plants and anything else. So I think, so we've got, liquor sales that are potential on our main street, depending on the offsets with distances. We've got cigarettes, so forth, can be sold out here. So I'm just thinking that might be, something to be considered. So, and then we've got Town Gateway, which is basically, the huge flexibility of what could be done, and production and innovation, just in case something happens with the growth and so forth of the plant material, and so the industrial part of it.
George, are you thinking to approve like X amount of locations, unlimited, one?
Well, I think it basically it goes by what the state will allow.
Right. Yeah, it's not up to us.
So if the state said,
Do we know
like a
what state
liquor,
will allow?
pardon me?
Do we know what state will allow?
The state right now is saying with a certain population, which we're under, but because we're an individual community, I think they were using something like a 20,000 population, that you under that you could get one facility. But knowing how state government works, who knows where it's going to go.
Right.
But I can't imagine competition wise, you'd have multiple locations, side by side, but who knows?
Well, they do in Great Barrington, and that's only 8,000 people, and they've got 3 right in downtown.
They do, yeah, okay. But I don't
mean,
think,
if they can survive and people use them, then that's business. That's competition.
And that's what I was just going to say too, Charlene. That you think it would be a business model that would kind of dictate. Will competition support? The easy, because different reasons why different facilities in the same, like a drugstore. Drugstore has a lot of in and out customers, so they're probably going to need parking. So how close are they all going to be located? It's up to the people making the investment, so forth, to make those calls.
So are we making obviously we're making a distinction between marijuana dispensary facility or retail cannabis establishment. And in number 5, it says no medical marijuana dispensary facility may be located closer than 200 feet from schools. Do we say the same thing about the retail cannabis thing?
Well, you had brought
this, and dispensary is basically the same thing.
Yeah, but you had also brought up, Charlene, just the terminology, whether it should all be cannabis instead of marijuana, and then cannabis, because in that same paragraph 5, we've got 200 feet, and we've got 500 feet.
Right.
So that's,
and marijuana is a very specific. Cannabis is the umbrella term for the marijuana is a very specific thing regarding the THC content of that plant. But cannabis, so saying marijuana facilities, we're talking about also cannabis, which is CBD, oil,
right.
CBD products, which there is no active THC in it. So I don't know, it's a little confusing, and we'll just clean that up. And
yeah, I think you brought that up before, and I think that the cannabis is kind of the umbrella, right?
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah, because there are already CBD sellers right on Main Street.
Yeah.
That wasn't
but
permitted.
not with marijuana.
No,
They're
just
not, they're not.
THC.
That's right. They're not regulated the same way.
Yeah.
All
All right, let's talk about the zones first, and then let's go. Otherwise, we're going to just hit this piecemeal.
Okay.
So, what are your thoughts on the 3 zones that I brought up?
George, I have the GIS open. If anyone has any question about what parts of town this applies to. The yellow is Town Gateway. This is Raleigh Street. This is your town center zone in light purple. And the PI is, I'll have to move this, but
What is PI? Excuse my ignorance.
Production in
Product-
industrial,
Oh, I see. Okay, thank
or
you.
it's production and innovation, we call it.
up here.
Where is that? Is that the industrial park?
Yes. And up Route 8, Route 8 North, yes.
So you'd have retail establishments up there in the industrial parks?
Well, just a suggestion, that's some of
Well,
these
I mean,
other,
are there, let me ask you, are there retail establishments in the industrial park areas?
no, not right now.
No, so like for that, you should possibly allow to actually make the product,
Yeah,
Yeah, like
grow house or
product
whatever.
production. Exactly.
So for PI, we can suggest PI would be a product development and grow and whatever that entails, and the other two zones are the sale
for the
facilities.
retail, yeah. The other thing too, just what you're bringing up, Felix, bring to my mind, with the industrial, we've got buffer zones that are required anyways. So that would take care of itself with regards to that. So that's a good point.
But I don't think that the regulation as written includes growing or manufacturing.
You
What
talk
is the
about the
state-
state or what we're talking about?
What,
Which
for
regulation?
the way you have it written, I don't think you've included it as a use.
What does the state, is the state saying anything about that, Pam? You know, what, if the state laws that were just adopted, is that just about retail? Or is it also about production and growing?
They're all
If
different
you know.
licenses needs to be done.
Yeah, and I don't think our regulation as written would include that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
No,
want to.
I know, I'm just wondering if we know what the state laws are about the growing and production aspects of it.
Well, it's all based on licensing. I know that the first license, I have it right here.
They're coming out in February, right, Felix?
Yeah, the first for retailer, February 3rd, micro cultivator, February 10th, delivery service 17th, hybrid, retailer 24th, manufacturing March 10th, packager. I mean, basically,
Okay.
this is just a taxation upon taxation. They basically look into
Yeah, yeah,
do license for everything.
yeah.
You know, so basically, technically, you can get a license to grow and you can get a license to sell. But then if you don't have a license to transport, you're done.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
but this is just the first round. So I believe in the first round, only people that are already sort of in a medical field
Yeah.
of sale, or people that used to be prosecuted for use or sale of marijuana in the past, they will be sort of given first chance at this,
Mhm.
and then the next round will be probably third quarter, I would say.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about expanding the definitions of what we have included here. But what you're talking about, Felix, you're talking about keeping the growing and manufacturing in our P&I and leaving the
Exactly.
rest of it in possibly these other two zones that we just discussed.
Well, not the rest of it. Just do retail sales and don't bring anything else in.
Okay, all right.
Make it easy, simple.
Okay, Peter?
Yeah, just on one of the things that, I don't know, Pam sent it out or you did, George, it was an act, Senate Bill 1201 from the state that municipal authority impact overview. It was 4 or 5 pages long, but the last part of it talked about allowing municipalities to amend their zoning regulations and ordinance to take following actions. And it was for micro cultivators and retailers and things like that, whether we allow it or not. My concern is if we limit the growing of it to production in an industrial zone, that's going to rule out any of our old empty factory buildings we have. whether it be
Good
Bridge
point.
Street, Capital Products, Sun Chief. We've got a lot of vacant industrial space in town
That's a
that
good
could possibly
observation.
use for
Yep,
that.
yep.
And it limits a lot of things where we have empty buildings that could be repurposed.
That's a good point. And the number was the 25,000.
Right, for 25,000.
20,000, but 25,000, yep.
Municipal residents, correct.
And it's all through special permit, so we could look at, whatever is being proposed and how does it fit.
Correct,
And,
exactly.
and then the other issues that were brought up that, about the odor and so forth and how it would be protected. I think Willie brought that up from Sandusfield, if I'm not remembering incorrectly.
The odor control, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
They have a lot, yes, odor control is important.
yeah, very important. Okay, well, so what's the consensus? We leave the 3 zones in? And then
Just,
we make it. Go
just
ahead.
heads up with the Sun Chief building, that's Town Center Residential.
Okay,
So none of this would be allowed in, I think there's 12 or 13 buildings there.
yes.
Yeah,
Well, that was our
Come
intent
on.
to try to get
Yeah.
that out of industrial.
really.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to, be all over the place, but on that paragraph 5 in the submittal that Pam sent out to us, you've got no medical marijuana dispensary closer than 200 feet from pre-existing public or private schools. And the preschool, kindergarten, or grades 1 through 12. Then you had no retail cannabis establishments closer than 500 feet. So what's the consensus about? Should we, number one, do it all under the cannabis headline, and then figure out whether it's going to be 500 feet or 200 feet, and it should be specified whether it's property to property or front door to front door.
I think the minutes
What's the
gathered,
stand-
what you had agreed on at the last meeting was door to door,
Yeah.
200
Yes.
feet.
Yeah. Okay.
500.
Was it 500?
200 door to door. That's what we talked about last time, months ago.
Which was less restrictive.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
So is that what it is? Is that what everybody agreed to, not 200?
Door to
My
door.
recollection from last meeting, door to door, 200 feet. That's what we were talking about.
I mean, like in Great Barrington, you can't get into these places without, bringing your birth certificate and,
Right.
28 forms
Yeah.
of ID. I mean, they're pretty strict, so
Give
you
it
can't just
drop
walk in.
of
It's not like
blood.
walking into a, right.
What
You
Felix?
can't go in,
Just
like a pharmacy or a, so it's, and I don't see any likelihood in anywhere, even in the distant future of that changing. This is going to be pretty heavily regulated for
Right, because what we have going is they are so regulated, and there is no second chances on breaking rules there. There is no slap on the wrist. So they follow the rules to a T.
Mhm.
So, and they will not bring anybody in without proper documentation or verification.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to be a lot more difficult to them, I guess, because everybody else is
Well, I
already.
think it argues that the 200 feet is plenty
Right.
Okay.
as opposed
Everybody
to
else
500
agree with
feet.
that?
I agree with that.
Okay. And consolidation of the name instead of the medical marijuana, just the cannabis operations? Is that what?
Well, I that's a technical question I have. Are now with the adoption of the retail cannabis laws, are medical dispensaries, are they separate entities under state law? Felix, do you know that?
I mean,
we started.
They gotta be, because
Connecticut's-
if you get prescription, I believe it covered by insurance.
So that means you have to.
The tax implications are different too. It's
Right.
tax.
Okay, but my question is, we've had, the state adopted medical dispensary laws several years ago. And those have existed for several years already. Now the retail cannabis establishment laws were just adopted. And do they subsume the medical the dispensary, or are they still two separate and distinct
Dude,
categories?
I believe they're still two separate entities, although the medical people will try to get a regular
Okay, so that means,
sale licensing.
well, George, I think that means, I think I can find that out. I think Felix is probably right. They're still separate entities, and therefore our zoning regs have to refer to both marijuana dispensary facilities and retail cannabis establishments.
And our current regulations deal with medical marijuana.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah,
we
George-
already, that's we're trying to add in the
Modify,
cannabis.
yes, to add in the retail part of it.
Cannabis into here. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I think we have to keep, but I think the title has to be cannabis facilities because
So under-
that's the broader umbrella for both marijuana, CBD, THC, all that
Well,
stuff.
then, then
It's
it's
all
not,
cannabis.
okay, so that's under T at the heading, should be cannabis.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. All right, we're using 200 feet instead of the 200 and then 500. I think we kind of hammered this. We should also put in possibly, because if we did an approval on something in a special permit, it would still be, I said 16, subject to all state of Connecticut regulations, because it would have to be anyway, so we might as well mention it. I don't know if that's the proper way to word it, but I think the gist of it has to be, we might as well throw that in. Just my thought. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Where is that? Where is that, George?
I just penciled it in. We got, it goes to 15, Charlene. And I said 60, because there's nothing in this that says
Oh,
something.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so add 16 and say that they have to,
Yeah,
yeah,
subject
okay.
to all state
Yeah.
of Connecticut regulations, because they're, I'm sure, going to be changing. So this way, we don't have to be playing catch up every time they do something.
Right.
Any other parts of this that anybody has any comments about? We've talked about it before. The other thing that just to be clear, I sent information to Josh, our town manager, and asked him to address this with the Board of Selectmen, because I think we need direction from the Board of Selectmen
right.
to let us know where they stand before we start the formal, regulation, public hearing, notification of the neighboring towns and the COG and so forth. And so far, they have not brought this up at a Board of Selectmen meeting. But if everybody's okay with this at this point, then we can just, leave it where it is. And we'll just make the couple of changes that we talked about. And then once we hear from the Board of Selectmen, then we will start the formal process, if that's okay.
Should we?
I think we need
ask
input
Board of
from-
Selectmen?
Peter, first, what?
No, I'm just saying, I think we need some input from the Board of Selectmen, what their wishes are.
I'm with you. I agree. Felix, what were you saying?
Oh, that's exactly what I was saying. I
Oh.
just think we need to nudge them, so
Yeah,
this way
we
we're not
are-
behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, we're not really, shouldn't be in the forefront. We should be responding to what the selectmen are talking about. And they should, I'm sure they're going to have some kind of a public hearing to discuss the issue. But I don't, there's been a lot of towns and planning and zonings that have actually put in a moratorium. And I don't see us pushing the cart down the street. I think we should be, as we have been, we've taken the lead on, in-law apartments or secondary apartments in single-family neighborhoods. We've covered those things, and I think our commission has been really upfront thinking out there, and that's why we don't have a lot of the problems that we have a lot of the other towns. But so we should just put this now in our cannabis file and wait and see what the Board of Selectmen does, if that's okay.
Sounds like a
Well, you
plan.
know, if we wait too long, other towns are gonna get these things. I mean, if we're really interested, or if we're just doing this as an exercise.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I didn't just do a phone call. I put it in writing to Josh, and
And they still didn't respond.
not yet.
Just, I just feel that, towns should benefit from the potential huge revenue that this can drive,
Well,
drive down from a
but
tax portion.
But Felix, that's one of the things that this document, and I sent it to everybody, and I think, Peter, you discovered this.
Yes.
This is this municipal authority impact overview, and it very clearly restricts where the funding can go to, whatever the amount that'll come to the community. But again, like everything else, it's all subject to whatever they come up with at each session. But right now, it very clearly, I don't know, did everybody get a copy of that? It's that Section 83 effective July 1st, 2021.
Yeah, we don't get anything. Do
I
we?
sent it to everybody on the commission.
Yeah. No, I mean, we don't.
Well,
We
the
don't.
Connecticut Public Act,
The SB 1201.
Yep.
An act concerning responsible and equitable regulation of adult use cannabis.
Mhm.
Okay. Under page 3, it says municipal uses of funds. The amounts remitted become a part of the municipality's general revenue and may only be used for the following purposes. 1, streetscape improvements and other neighborhood developments in communities where cannabis retailers, hybrid retailers, or micro cultivators are located. 2, education programs or youth employment and training programs in the municipality. 3, services for individuals living in the municipality who were released from DOC custody, probation, or parole. 4, mental health or addiction services. 5, youth service bureaus and municipal juvenile review boards. And 6, community and civic engagement efforts. Those are the restrictions to the use of funds. So it goes into the municipal funds, but it's restricted if they ever audit the funds where they could go.
I think
So
those are good places to distribute the funds.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I think that there are people who think that you can put it into highways, you can put it into sidewalks and stuff like that. So I just
But if you can put these funds into the specific buckets, that means you can take funds from those buckets and put it into different use.
no, there's no question about it. I just didn't want anybody, I sent that to everybody, and I sent it to the town manager so that everybody's making decisions based on with their eyes open.
Right.
Okay. All right.
What happens is these buckets get filled up with money and you have no place to spend it. That's what I think happens in a lot of communities.
Yeah, well, that's true. But we certainly have enough of empty
We don't
buckets.
have a
this time.
qualified expense. Streetscape improvements in the neighborhood. How big is the neighborhood around your facility?
Yeah.
You need, the definitions of the neighborhoods and stuff. That's,
Yeah, true.
I think these buckets will get filled up with money and then you got no way to spend them.
Uh-huh. Well, that's another board.
That's up to, the selectmen to tell us if we're gonna go down that road or not.
Yeah, true. Okay, just the other thing too that everybody's aware, I did make a contact to the ZBA chairman and the zoning board of appeals chairman. Steve Molinelli did call me back and we talked about it. He sees there's value in having a communication between our commission or all the land use boards. Phil Allen, I never heard back from him, but I did, I know Paul Marino participated in our subcommittee on short-term rentals, and he's the vice chair. So I talked to him, and he definitely sees an interest in, has an interest in a joint meeting of some kind. So while we're doing this joint stuff, I think a meeting like that would be best in person, personally. And but just to let you know that I didn't drop it. It has been, we've been trying to pursue it. And when we get out of this COVID thing a little bit better, then we'll try to assemble a meeting at a mutually agreeable time.
That being said, are we on Zoom until foreseeable future?
We'll make that decision on a week-to-week basis, Felix. We'll see.
Okay.
We're having, like, I've got a sewer and water meeting tomorrow night, and the members have decided that they'd prefer to get much more done in person. So we're having that.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, no, I agree too.
Well, like for me personally, it's a lot more convenient on Zoom, but I think you definitely can get a lot more done.
Yeah, I agree. Well, tonight with the ice and so forth, it's not a bad idea. You know?
Right.
But anybody else have anything for the commission tonight? Okay, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
There, we got a motion. We got a second. Peter,
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, thanks everybody for all your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Hey, Happy New Year, by the way.